Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today. The topic for today's webinar is Outreach, Consumer Education, and Community Partnerships, how DC's Solar for All program is bringing solar to low-income households. This webinar is being presented by the Clean Energy States Alliance, and we're very excited to have many excellent guest speakers with us today. But before we pass it over to them, I'd like to go over some webinar logistics. We are using a newly updated version of GoToWebinar. You've noticed that if you've attended some of our older webinars, it's a shiny new platform.
Whether it's actually complaints or right issues and whatnot, and so.
So all attendees are in listen-only mode, so your webcam and microphone are disabled. However, you can submit questions and comments. To do this, you can click on the questions panel on the top right of your screen and type in your question. We'll be saving 15 minutes following our presentation for a Q&A with the audience, and we will get to as many questions as we can. To make sure that we get to your question, do type it in when you think of it and don't wait until the end. Speaker bios are available to read as a PDF in the materials section. We also now have a captions feature found near the bottom of your screen. Just click on the caption button and to turn them on, and you can click on the small arrow to the right to adjust caption size and color. Finally, this webinar is being recorded. Slides and recording of today's webinar will be sent to you via email within 48 hours. You can also find all of these materials posted on our website at cisa.org/webinars. This URL is where we post all of our upcoming and archived webinars, so it's a good one to bookmark. With that, I'd like to pass it over to our host for today's webinar, my colleague, Matt Olaf.
Great, thanks so much, Zareen, and thanks everybody for joining the webinar today. As Zareen mentioned, my name is Matt Olaf. I'm a project manager at the Clean Energy States Alliance, or CESA. CESA is a national nonprofit organization made up of public agencies and organizations working together to advance clean energy. Next slide, please. So CESA works with state leaders, federal agencies, industry representatives, and other stakeholders to develop clean energy programs and inclusive renewable energy markets. CESA, mostly made up of state agencies, include many of the most innovative, successful, and influential public funders of clean energy initiatives in the country. And you can see many of our members' logos on your screen right now. Next slide, please. So today's webinar is a product of CESA's Solar with Justice project. This project is looking into how states and community-based organizations can collaborate more effectively to advance solar in low-income and disadvantaged communities. The Solar with Justice project is primarily funded by the U.S. Department of Energy's Solar Energy Technologies Office, as well as providing additional support from the Nathan Cummings Foundation. Next slide, please. The webinar today is on the 5th case study that has been produced as part of the Solar with Justice project. You can see the 4 previous case studies on your screen right now. These case studies are available on our website and cover different aspects of state energy agency and community-based organization collaboration. Yeah, you can check those case studies out on our website. CESA will also be releasing additional reports and information in the coming months, so please be on the lookout for that. So on this slide, you can see the case study that we just released earlier this month. This is the 5th case study as part of the Solar with Justice project, and this will be the focus of today's webinar, which is on the District of Columbia's long-standing and groundbreaking Solar for All program. This new case study by CESA, titled Implementing Washington, D.C. Solar for All program, an example of equitable solar outreach and consumer education. As I mentioned, is the 5th case study that's part of the Solar with Justice project. This case study profiles the program and the ways its administrators have handled outreach and consumer education over the program's 7-year history. The case study especially emphasizes the valuable role that trusted community-based organizations and community institutions can play in advancing the program's success. Next slide, please. So we're privileged today to be joined by 3 panelists who have helped lead the development and implementation of the District Solar for All program. Daniel White is the Energy Program Specialist at the DC Department of Energy and Environment. Rashad Williams is the Director of Subscription Services at Groundswell, and Pamela Nelson is the Energy Efficiency and Sustainable Outreach Specialist with the DC Office of the People's Council. The full bios for the three panelists will be available in the chat. Before I hand it over to the panelists, as Zareen mentioned earlier, there will be a Q&A session after the presentations. If you have any questions, please post those questions in the questions box, which you should see in your interface, and we will be fielding those questions during the Q&A session. So thanks again, and I will hand it over to Daniel.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much. Hopefully you can hear me. And Zareen, you can bring up the slides. And as Matt mentioned, my name is Daniel White. I'm with the Department of Energy and Environment, Energy Administration, and I manage our Solar for All program as well as our energy storage program. So this has been a great undertaking to do this study and to work with CISA on it to talk about and highlight kind of the way our energy office is been able to collaborate with many organizations in the district and the role our community-based organizations and partners have played in the implementation of DC Solar for All program. So this will be kind of a high-level overview because I'm looking forward to the questions and answers. So definitely will provide a broad strokes of how we got to where we are now and the collaborations and show some project examples. Next slide, please. So the goal for Solar for All in the District of Columbia is to serve up to 100,000 low-income households through our single-family and community solar programs by 2032. So this program actually was established in legislation in 2016. So from 2016 to 2032, it seemed like we had forever. But now, as we are in 2024, and we're just only 8 years away from our goal, we have a lot of work to do, and collaboration with our, community-based organization is a big piece of how we plan to be able to, reach that goal. And through this program, we also provide the benefits of reduced electricity bills, up to 50% savings for the eligible households. And when we say eligible households, we're talking about households in the District of Columbia that are at 80% of area median income or below. And lastly, the savings of 50% are equivalent to approximately $500 annually per household. So if you'll see here, thinking about the collaboration, as I mentioned, we're going to need the coordination with all of our local stakeholders and community-based organizations to help us reach our goal. When Solar for All was established in 2016, the first step in order for us to begin implementation of the program, we had to do stakeholder engagement. So we had a task force that was comprised of many community-based organizations and stakeholders in the district to help us kind of outline where our challenges were in the district. So we knew siting was one of the challenges, and we knew financing was one of the challenges. Also thinking about how to do education and outreach to promote the program and be able to allow folks to know, hey, Solar for All is here and it is actually legit, because in DC, our Solar for All program is a no cost program for the eligible households. So after the implementation, after the task force came back with some recommendations after about 3 months of discussions and hammering out where the challenges are and what type of approaches we should take to achieve our goals, we had phase one of the implementation of Solar for All was 13 million in grant funds that were provided to 9 grantees. And Groundswell was actually one of those grantees. So it's great to be able to, have them here to talk about, their experience and how their role in Solar for All, has been. And of course, the Office of People's Counsel was part of the stakeholder task force as well. And after we put the 13 million out and the grantees went to work, they started trying to address the different issues that were in the market. And through that, they were able to collaborate with district agencies, other private entities to be able to access rooftops or canopy spaces, parking lots, to be able to determine which would be the best approach to help us scale up the Solar for All program. And then lastly, we wanted to document the phase one, and we did that through a documentary series. And there's a link here that you can check out. It's actually an award-winning documentary. It basically allowed us to interview some of the participants in the program, talk with some of the organizational partners that we work with and the stakeholders, as well as the grantees, as well as our staff, to be able to share kind of what happened in those first 3 years and what's next to go. Next slide. So as I mentioned, collaboration is a huge part of making this program a success. As you see here, I just wanted to illustrate how many organizations, and this is just a few, this is not all of them, because there were federal partners involved as well to help us frame out the Solar for All program. Yes, you can go to the next slide. So some of the outcomes from that phase one that we were able to achieve, working with organizational partners allowed us to help lower the electric bills and reduce energy burden for our low-income households. We were able to help build trust for the solar program because the market had a lot of newcomers to it, and a lot of folks weren't familiar with the program and were not totally sold on the fact that there was a no-cost program that they could actually apply for and receive benefits, and nothing would have to come out of their pocket. When you say free, folks say that's too good to be true. So working with our community partners and non-government organizations, that helped to build that trust. We were able to access or increase the access to solar programs through partnerships through other social service programs such as SNAP, TANF, SSI, and affordable housing programs, to allow us to, again, build more trust with those community partners, because those are organizations that the demographic or the households we were trying to reach actually had already worked with in the past and had already established rapport. So great partnering with them to be able to get access. Of course, we'll talk about this later in this webinar, increasing our outreach and education opportunities, because even to this day, when some parts of DC, you say Solar for All, the folks will say, hey, I never heard of that program. And we're 7 years later, so still have work to do around outreach and education about the program. And lastly, creating workforce development opportunities. And I'll talk about that a little later in one of my slides. All right, next slide. Actually, it's this slide. So this is a collaboration between the district government and the Solar for All program, as well as federal partners. We had the Department of Parks and Recreation. We also worked with the National Park Service, worked with our local utility, and several ANCs, which are advisory neighborhood councils, which are like the liaison between the communities and the different entities of the district government, to help give the community a voice, when projects and different things are being proposed in different neighborhoods. So it took us 3 years to actually develop this project. It had to have a lot of community organizations and a lot of discussion around what this project was, how it's going to benefit the community, and what does this mean with Solar for All. So they're, again, the community-based organizations were pivotal in helping us to gain trust, be able to educate the community, and then move forward with actually implementing the project, which is now serving 750 low-income households and helping to reduce their electricity bill by $500 annually. So this was a great example of collaboration. Next slide. Here's another project through Solar for All. This was in partnership with a organization called New Partners that actually worked with a downtown building to get access to their rooftops to do community solar as part of their first phase of Solar for All. But then through this project, they were able to partner with a local public school to be able to put canopy solar there, which actually offsets some of the load on site, but the majority of the capacity is provided to households, as you see, 66 households, to reduce their annual electricity bill by up to $500 per year. So another great opportunity to work with the public school system, the local community, and the Solar for All program. Next slide. So after phase one, we began a partnership and took the lessons learned about the challenges that we were facing, the costs that were associated, and the time frames that we kind of ran into with trying to develop these projects. So we pivoted to a dollar per watt incentive in partnership with the DC Sustainable Energy Utility, which is a contractor to the Department of Energy and Environment to provide renewable energy and energy efficiency programs. So because they are a partner with DOEE, we were able to provide them funding, and then they were able to contract with local installers to be able to do a workforce development program for single family installs for eligible households, as well as doing community solar projects with affordable housing, multifamily properties, as well as other buildings where we could find access to rooftops or space where they could build projects. And from the first phase to current date, including phase two, we've served over 9,000 households. We've installed 39 megawatts of solar capacity, and 31 of those megawatts are in community solar. And the percentage of our district residents that we need to reach for that 100,000 household goal are living in multifamily housing. So that second phase of connecting with the DCSCU and targeting multifamily affordable housing properties to develop on really helped us to reach our target market to get those difficult to provide benefit households and renters involved in the program. Next slide. So through that program with DC Sustainable Energy Utility, this is one of the projects that came out of that collaboration, working with the local installers, the DC Sustainable Energy Utility, and our Department of Energy and Environment, along with the local utility and the permitting department. We were able to put in a 1.1 megawatt canopy solar system at the Department of Health and Human Services hospital facility that's in the district. So that was a great partnership with the federal government, with the local DC government, and again, the DC Sustainable Energy Utility, as well as our developers. So this project is actually supporting 325 households, eligible households that are receiving, again, the $500 in savings on their utility bill annually, the electricity bill. So another great opportunity for partnership. Next slide, please. So next steps to help us continue to grow the program. There's going to be need for policy coordination as we're thinking about net energy metering and the ability to maximize the capacity of solar that can be deployed on the grid in the district. That's going to require a lot of work with, our folks at the Office of People's Counsel, as well as the Public Service Commission, and with our local utility to, put policies in place that align with the climate and energy goals for the district. We still have the challenge because we're in an urban, dense, populated area of getting site acquisition. There's a lot of competing priorities for rooftop space in the district, as well as for parking lot spaces that are premium in the district, and trying to get access to new construction as it's being rolled out in the district, working closely with our planning office and other sister agencies to be at the beginning of that conversation to help integrate our strategy for Solar for All with our city planning across our buildings and across many other parts of the district's 700, well, I guess 60 square miles, but 700,000 residents. Project financing is something that we're looking at now, and with the bipartisan infrastructure law and the EPA Solar for All funding, we look forward to leveraging some creative financing options and working with the DC Green Bank to continue to expand the financing options for solar projects that support Solar for All. And then we'll get into the outreach and engagement and education later with OPC. And then subscription management is going to be a huge piece to us continuing to reach those renters in the district to maximize our opportunities to reach that 100,000 household goal. And that's where the partnership with Groundswell in their time working with us in the past 3 years through a grant really helped our program to grow by leaps and bounds. So continuing to develop that and finding the funding to be able to coordinate, to be able to develop that partnership going forward, and working closely with Pepco and all of the community solar portal, kind of data information as well, is going to really prove to be the key piece to us making that successful transition to get to that 100,000 households. So at that, I will turn it back over and pass it on for our next presentation. Back to you, Matt.
Great. Thanks so much, Daniel. We got a lot of great questions rolling in, so keep them coming. If you have any, plug them into the questions box. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and pass it off to Rashad.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Rashad Williams, and I have the great pleasure of serving as Groundswell's Director of Subscriber Services. And my task for the day is to continue the conversation, um, focusing on how we've centered equity in our approach to outreach and education with DC Solar for All subscribers. So, a little bit of background on Groundswell. Groundswell builds community power. We do that both in the literal sense of building projects that reduce energy burdens, and also in the conceptual space of uh, our approach to subscriber management that really centers respect and equity and inclusivity for communities that we serve. We'll be expanding our work along the southeast of the U.S. into some rural communities and really making sure that we center equity and expand into those communities as well. Some of our core values that show up particularly as it relates to outreach and education and subscriber management include equity, respect, and serving people and communities with joy. That's certainly the spirit that we brought to our work with DC Solar for All. And our subscriber management services package includes several different elements. So it's customer support, which is our email and call center that our team manages. We also design and develop communications to be able to build relationships with subscribers. Data management and analytics is really central to our approach to managing subscribers and serving customers. And we sort of threaded all of those elements into our Share Power software platform that we've developed to be a comprehensive solution and tool that we can use to make that process more efficient. So Groundswell began collaborating with the Department of Energy and Environment on DC Solar for All back in 2019. And it was just an incredible opportunity for us to be able to work together on a shared vision, not only of expanding access to solar, but also of building a meaningful and respectful engagement experience for the subscribers to the program as well. And so DOEE has certainly led the charge in terms of designing a program that has not only been impactful here in DC, but that is also a replicable model that is being adopted across the country. And so a huge amount of credit goes to them for that. And we've certainly been grateful for the opportunity to work with them and collaborate in that way. And Groundswell's primary responsibilities with the program have included administering our subscriber contact center, so fielding customers' questions and making sure that we're able to engage with them sort of on a one-to-one basis, and building people-centric methods into our approach to communication, outreach, and education. Accurate and timely subscription data management is really central to having an effective program. Is how we make sure that subscribers receive the benefits that they are expecting. And then also offering an online subscriber portal where subscribers can log in and track those benefits throughout their participation in the program. And so I'll walk you through how we have really centered the subscribers' needs in all of these efforts. So starting with our subscriber contact center, one thing that we have learned is that when you're engaging with income qualified households and communities, it tends to be a high touch process to develop relationships and build trust, right? They want to be able to engage with a person who can answer their questions, who can explain the program in terms that they can understand, who can help them, find their bill credits on their bill, and so forth. And so you'll see here on the screen some of the questions, the most common questions that our team receives from subscribers on an incoming basis. And then we also have several outgoing outreach efforts that we also take on as well. One that was called out in the CISA report was the Welcome to the Program calls, which was someone from our team giving each subscriber and each household a call, welcoming them to the program, helping them understand uh, how the benefits work, what to expect, and also answering any initial questions that they have. And then throughout their journey, we continued that outreach by keeping them updated on their project generation, as well as sharing out energy efficiency tips, and also just communicating through our monthly e-newsletters as well. Um, in terms of targeting communications, something that we have found to be very effective is leveraging the data that we were able to extract from our surveys. So through the surveys, we learned that a huge portion of subscribers did not use email, and that most of them were senior African American women. And so we took that data to stand up a mailing campaign of something we call the seasonal mailer. And we, as you can see here on the screen, we really threaded in some of those elements of our target customer to really help them connect to the program in a really tangible way. I can't overstate the importance of an effective data management strategy for managing community solar programs, because what we certainly have found is that data management is a ongoing process throughout the full life cycle of a subscriber's participation. So we took a step to develop and design and build a software platform that we call SharePower, which really helped us, number one, make processes more efficient, and number two, and most importantly, make sure that we were reducing errors and being as accurate as possible to make sure that subscribers were always receiving their credits as expected, and that we were, proactive and responsive where needed to make sure that they had an efficient experience with the program. And so you'll see here on the screen several different data tasks that were required throughout the experience, starting with very early on as they're enrolling, calculating the appropriate subscription allocation based on their household consumption, assigning them to projects, liaising and engaging with the utility to resolve any issues that come up, and then also monitoring their consumption over time to determine whether any adjustments to their subscription allocation was needed. And so Share Power was the way that we were able to do that in a way that was effective and also scalable as the program has grown over time. The Share Power platform also offers an online dashboard where subscribers can log in and see several data points that we know are important to them. One is the generation that their subscription produced, the greenhouse gas equivalent of the car miles that were saved by their subscription for that month, and of course the dollar value of the solar credits that were applied to their bill. And we shared this information with them both on an individual billing cycle basis, and there are also reports in the platform that they can generate to sort of track their benefits over time. Again, just to provide an additional opportunity for subscribers to be able to track their benefits, to understand the impact that it's having in their household over time. And again, just another engagement touch piece for them to engage with the program as well. And so all of those elements informed our Solar for All subscriber journey, and we were able to deliver each of these touch points in collaboration with DOEE. Our teams met on a bi-weekly basis, and really collaborated to determine what communications were most effective and keeping both teams informed on when things were going out. But what we learned over time is that relationship building and building trust is really the collaboration of all of these efforts. So, really providing a variety of different opportunities for subscribers to engage with the program, whether it's through that welcome to the program call, whether it's through engaging with the subscriber dashboard online, or whether it's just receiving the newsletters or the seasonal mailer that came in the mail. Just providing different opportunities for subscribers to engage with the program in a way that was comfortable and that was best for them. And so all of those efforts, as I said, have informed the Solar for All subscriber journey, and will continue to inform how we continue to take feedback from subscribers and continue to build out the journey to continue to meet their needs. And so I thank you for your time and attention. And with that, I will pass it back to you, Matt, to keep us going to the Office of People's Counsel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rashad. Yeah, so I'll pass it off to our third panelist now, Pamela Nelson with the DC Office of the People's Council. So, Pamela, are you available?
Pamela, I think you'll need to unmute yourself via your telephone. It looks like you are connected. All right. We did have Pamela in a moment ago. I wonder if it would make sense to go to questions and I can help troubleshoot with Pamela, Matt.
Yeah, that works great. Yeah, so we have a lot of great questions coming in. Um, Again, feel free to drop those in the questions box. Let's see. I will start off with some basic outreach questions, maybe most applicable to Daniel. So regarding building trust using collaborations with trusted community partners, what activities or what was the ask of the community partner in building trust? And were there tactics that you identified as more or less effective in building community trust? And Daniel and Rashad, feel free to come on camera.
Yeah, sure. Those are great questions. I think the ask from the community partners was to help to identify solar for all contractors from just market rate contractors, because in DC we have third party suppliers, which could be developers that are actually marketing programs that look or could be similar to community solar. So being able to educate the community partners on, these are the selected vendors, because we had a process by which we selected the partners that we worked with, and then we had marketing materials and media guidelines and hashtags and everything that aligned that only our trusted partners could use. And then we would collaborate with those community organizations to kind of educate them on what and who they are, so they could then coordinate that and communicate it to the eligible households. So that's just one example of how we were able to put that together.
Great, thank you. Another outreach question. How did you approach outreach when you were talking about different types of solar? Did you split interested residents into owners versus renters, and then direct them to rooftop versus community solar, respectively?
Yes,
Did you
absolutely.
distinguish?
Yeah, I think those were the two primary categories. We started off with single family rooftop. That's kind of been the longest standing program. And then as legislation and policies kind of came and grew to allow for community solar, that was another conversation, as I kind of alluded to, with the kind of educating our community partners on what in DC community solar really means and how it works, so that when a third party supplier kind of provided information about another offering, it could be distinguishable so that you could know solar for all from the other offering that's in the market.
Great. And then a couple questions related to multifamily affordable housing. How did you engage with multifamily affordable housing? It's directed at Rashad, but you may both be able to answer it, or one of you. Have you found it more effective to reach out to property owners if you have any, if you've experimented with this? So yeah, what was a successful approach?
I'll let Rashad jump in first and then I can follow up.
Sorry, struggling to come off mute there. Our approach to that really was based on engaging with um, the property managers and like the people that those communities trusted. And so uh, I think there was one community that we were able to get a letter of support from the property manager from. to support the program and use that to engage with the subscribers and earn their trust to enroll in the program. There was also a regulation that came down from HUD that allowed for uh, subscribe or residents of multifamily housing to be able to receive community solar credits. I believe at the start of the program, there was a challenge with working with multifamily housing because their uh, solar credits was being counted as income, which would could mess up their ability to be able to save on their HUD assistance. And so once that regulation was changed, that opened up new opportunities to engage with those communities and really enroll them in the program.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that real quickly, I think working closely with DC Sustainable Energy Utility, they have a request for proposals process, which allows kind of guidance on the developer to work specifically with the affordable housing community to kind of identify from a technical standpoint how that property could participate. But then we also, as DOEE, along with our partners at Groundswell, were looking to work with those individuals at the property ownership or property management level to kind of help train the trainer, so to speak. So we would educate them on the Solar for All program so that they could then have community meetings and kind of work with the local tenants to kind of better provide the information of how to enroll into the Solar for All program and the benefits that were part of that.
I am so sorry, guys. Could you hear me? This is Pamela. Hello? Could you hear me?
Hey, Pamela. Yep, we can hear you.
I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. So sorry for all the technical difficulties. Do you want me to go ahead, Matt?
Yeah, if you're ready to present, are you able to see the
Yes,
slides?
I am. Yeah, I still have the screen open so I can see the slides.
Okay, great. We will post those slides up and there we go. All right, take it away, Pamela.
Okay, great. Thank you. Again, sorry for all the technical difficulties. I'm Pamela Nelson, the Energy Efficiency Outreach Specialist with the Office of the People's Council of the District of Columbia. For your information, OPC is the consumer utility advocate for our utility ratepayers of natural gas, electric, local telephone matters, as well as our consumer services, water matters as well. We also have jurisdiction over renewable energy and energy efficiency matters. The Office of the People's Council is headed by Sandra Matthews Fry. I'm going to share with you my experience with the DC Solar for All program, looking at 3 categories: collaboration, experience, and recommendations. I also, next slide, please. I also have pictures of 2 projects, and they're faith-based projects using the Solar for All program to install Solar for All on the roofs of the faith-based churches, with the benefits going directly to benefit our low-income income qualified residents. The first picture that you see is St. Luke's Baptist Church, a 55 kW SFA solar roof array. Could you move to the second slide, please? The second slide, it's a solar canopy over the parking lot of Sergeant Memorial Baptist Church, and that's 256 kW. Let me begin by talking about collaboration, and that was mentioned by both Daniel and Rashad, the importance of collaboration. It's imperative that any SFA program, whether you are in the initial stages or you're in the mature stage, do offer or do collaboration with a variety of both government agencies, non-government agencies, and nonprofit. to spread the word widely about the program, the existence of the program, and also to get the correct message across. I partnership on behalf of the Office of the People's Council with Groundswell, who was then a solar contractor under the SFA program, to do both installations, St. Luke's Baptist Church rooftop installation and Sergeant Memorial solar canopy parking lot installation as well. It is also imperative, I found that from my experience, it is also imperative that the messaging about the Solar for All program be very clear, be consistent. Our residents should be engaged from the inception of that message to the creation of the message and beyond, in order to get a better understanding of the intention of the program and how it will benefit our residents. Now, my experiences. One of the things that I found with the Solar for All program, again, as I said earlier, the collaboration, it also feeds into the message. The early messaging, I think, was not as robust as it should have been. And therefore, because it was not as robust, maybe it in some ways hamper active participation. However, I know that Daniel has mentioned, and the program has grown as far as getting that message across. I also think that for one of my experiences is that a dedicated or standalone consumer services office within the Solar for All program is very, very necessary. Why that is so? Because it does a couple of things. It gets the correct messaging out. It's a point of contact for consumers with questions and for consumers with questions about the program itself. And it also helps to, in the case of DC, and I'm going to just vary a little bit here, it also helps when I say correct messages. We have got bad actors, and I'm sure many of you, if you do have a solar for All program, is experiencing that, where solar installers in the District of Columbia are doing a copy-like Solar for All program, and of course, leading to a whole lot of unnecessary confusion as to what is the real legitimate Solar for All program. So I think if you have a standalone consumer services offices within the Solar for All program, these are real-time problems that could be solved in real time. What are some of my other experiences? I think for the Solar for All, for DC especially, and as it was mentioned, we are in an urban area with scarcity of available land and roof space. So creative thinking out of the box is very necessary. With both Sergeant Memorial and St. Luke's Baptist Church, we engage the church to use its rooftop for the energy credit benefits going to the community as opposed to the church. And that's the community that is income qualified for the SFA program, including church members who qualify. In doing so, we have to stress the benefit to the churches. Most faith-based groups have what is called social services outreach programs. So one of my approach was to say, hey, this is another way of adding variety to your social service program by participating, having your roof to be used for solar installation to all vulnerable communities. And that went across very well. And then there are other faith-based groups that have even more limited social services. So they're always looking for areas in which they can improve the social services of the community. One of my other experiences is community members, and I like to say community leaders. In order for any Solar for All program to have widespread participation, the engagement of a variety of groups, nonprofits, government agencies, community groups, in particular, identifying community leaders who will help you to do some of that work of spreading the message about the program within their respective communities. And I say community leaders because they often tend to be the voice of the community. So to ease the burden of the administrator of the Solar for All program having to do that work, just collaborate. Let others, take the reign. And also, look, I found it's important to engage non-traditional sources, such as local community newspapers. I talked about finding community leaders. There are a lot of neighborhood groups within a community. Try to identify those neighborhood groups as well. It is important, again, that the message is consistent, it's clear. From the onset of the creation of the Solar for All program, that messaging should be out there with a continuation and possible timelines as to when the program would be rolled out, with, of course, the caveat that those timelines are subject to change. So because of repeating that message over and over again, it becomes almost a known variable in the minds of our community. They've heard it so much that when the program does roll out, there's already familiarity. What are my recommendations? Again, I want to leave you with 3 possible recommendations. The first is engage the community from the onset. Any working group that's to be created should consist of a variety of government, non-government agencies, nonprofits, social service communities, community leaders, and everyone who has a voice in the community. That message should always be clear, easily understood, and, sort of omit any of the legal jargon. The message should be ongoing. As the program ramps up, it's even more important that that message is spread on a continuing basis. It should be ongoing, again, from the onset, throughout the program, to the end of the program, when consumers will have questions. Identify a standalone consumer services office within the Solar for All division. That is very important because it is the actual point of reference for consumers with questions or just to share what's been happening with the program in the community. For example, SFA-like installers using the program to gain access to community members. So I said communication must be clear. Engage, again, the community from the onset, throughout the program, to the end of the program and beyond. And you must create, again, a standalone office. Having said all of that, it was my pleasure to share my experiences with the DC Solar for All program. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Pamela. We'll get back into the Q&A portion. We still have quite a few great questions. Let's aim to go for 5 after, which gives us about 8 more minutes. We started this webinar a little late, so that'll give us about an hour total. And if all the presenters would like to come off camera. I'm gonna go to a pretty high level question I think might be on a lot of attendees' minds. So how does this DC Solar for All program integrate, add to, or is different than the recently awarded Solar for All program, EPA Solar for All program grantees? And what's the overlap in DC?
So the EPA Solar for All program is more, I guess, all-encompassing. It has technical assistance that allows for funding to support, development of solar projects. It also allows funding for services around, like outreach and engagement, subscriber management, and then also looking at kind of overall strategy for helping different markets to be able to develop their program, whereas the Solar for All program in the district is council or district law that basically looked at the solar market and wanted to target specifically low income communities at 80% of AMI and below to provide the benefit of solar to 100,000 households by 2032. So it's a specific mandate under our Solar for All program in the district versus the EPA's version.
Great, thank you. A question about income verification. Did elements of this program require participants to verify their income? If so, what strategies were used?
Yes, that was a major barrier at first because there were a lot of programs that had varying income eligibility requirements, and you had to apply to each of those programs separately. So what Solar for All has done over the years is worked on developing a categorical eligibility criteria. And what that means is, say you are a recipient of LIHEAP or you're a recipient of another affordable housing, type of voucher that is equivalent to 80% of AMI or below. We then would allow you to provide that documentation to be income verified for our Solar for All program without having to fill out a separate, application to participate in our program. So providing categorical eligibility and then also partnering with our low income home energy assistance program to develop a unified application. So if you participate in LIHEAP, you can check a box and say you're interested in Solar for All, and that'll automatically sign you up for a community solar benefit through Solar for All. So trying to work with our community-based organizations and other social service programs that have equitable income eligibilities to streamline the process to access Solar for All is kind of a priority and focus for us here in DC.
Great, thanks. A couple questions about consumer protections. What protections are available to those who have experienced property damage issues following installation, if that has been an issue at all? And then expanding on that, the $500 bill savings, how are those guaranteed? And is that pretty much consistent across all participants, or is there variance either among participants or time based on time of the year?
So, and Rashad can jump in too, because I know that they, from the community's solar standpoint of it, helped us to kind of verify the savings and to be able to make sure that as we look at allocations and the percentages of benefit that are going to the households, that we meet that target. But I think overall, it's kind of been across the board. It can vary from month to month just because solar is intermittent. As the weather goes, if you don't have a lot of sun, you don't get a lot of production. So then your credit may be lower in some months than it is in other months. But overall, by the 12-month period, we want to make sure that the household has received at least the $500 credit benefit, whether it's through the community solar program or installed directly on their home. And there are consumer protections within the homeowner agreements with the contractors that participate with Solar for All that allow for workmanship warranty, equipment warranties, and making sure that if there's something that happens, there's a number you can call, and those folks come out to be able to take care of it, right there for you. And if their roof or electrical upgrade is needed, the program does have funds to allow for those households to be able to get that work done prior to having solar installed. So we try to develop the consumer protections around the languages that we put out for participants for the program.
And Matt, if I may say something, outside of the RFP and the consumer protection for the SFA, DC unfortunately only has broad consumer protection, and there is need to provide more specific consumer protection standards around the Solar for All program, solar in the whole generally. So that is something that is on the table right now.
Yeah, that's a great point, Pamela. Yeah.
Just to piggyback off of Daniel's point on the savings, that's really where the data management was a critical component. Initially, we are DOEE established that the average household in DC used 8,400 kilowatt hours of energy per year, and thus we were giving everybody the same subscription allocation of 3.5 kilowatt uh, capacities, just because that was projected to generate about half of that, which would get you somewhere around $500. But over time, as we started getting data on how projects were producing, to Daniel's point, some of that is something that you can't really anticipate in advance. We would adjust subscription sizes accordingly to make sure that they were on track. So if they were on a project that was underproducing, for example, we would increase their subscription size so that they are tracking to closer towards the $500 goal. And then we also completed a research project actually in 2022, just to verify that subscribers were indeed receiving the intended benefits. And we found that over 90% of them were receiving $500 or more in annual credits.
Great. Well, thanks to all of our panelists. I think we'll wrap it up there as far as Q&A. To all the attendees, all the people that registered, we will be sending a recording around as well as posting it on the CESA website. But before we close it out, Rashad, Daniel, Pamela, anything you think should be said before we close it out that wasn't covered?
I guess we can go in order of presentation. I think just as Pamela and Rashad had mentioned, the close collaboration and coordination. And I think Pamela also mentioned having that outreach and engagement team inside of the Solar for All program is critical to help connect the dots, so to speak, and make sure that you're getting an understanding and clear communication of the intention of the program and, marketing it for, broader access.
Absolutely. And just to underline that point, I think each of us represent different components of engaging with communities. And Daniel's DOEE is like the program designer, and they're the mastermind behind pulling all of the projects and the benefits together, as well as the stakeholders. Groundswell is more on the back end as it relates to subscription management. Like we were just talking about subscription allocation adjustments. That's not something that most subscribers would see or necessarily directly know that was happening, but it's still a critical part of making sure that they have a positive experience with the program. And then you have Pamela and OPC, who are more forward-facing and engaging directly with communities. But all of those elements together are what make for an impactful outreach and engagement strategy. So I would say just lean into collaboration as much as possible.
And I concur. I also want to add that when you create your RFP languages, given that the market is changing, maybe look towards creating stronger languages that address some of the current problems that the market is seeing. And also, it's very imperative that rather than a broad, more specific consumer protection standards be created for solar installers.
Great. Well, thanks again, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Like I said, we will be sending the recording out to everyone who attended, and it will be posted on the CESA website. And to close us out, I'll pass it back over to my colleague, Zareen.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. We've got a few webinars upcoming. You can find them at cesa.org/webinars. Thanks again.
Thank you.